G'day, Agent Hara here. And this is, I guess, what you'd call a blog, if ever I blogged on this channel. I just think I want to share something today, and I hope that it will help somebody else, wherever you are in your journey. I had a father that was a dark triad, very abusive man. He sexually abused me, he physically abused me, he emotionally and verbally abused me, and then some. Like any form of abuse you can imagine, basically, yeah. And that was then, and I've done a lot of healing and recovery. So why am I talking about this right now, you might wonder? Well, today is, and I think I had the math wrong last time I mentioned this in a video, but today is the 23rd anniversary of his death. September 14th, 1997. So you can double check my math because it's not good. I double checked before I did this. I think I got it right. But, you know, something unusual happened today for me. Not that I haven't thought about this, not that I don't think about it once in a while, because unlike what the family of origin is like, and unlike their hatred for me because I was the scapegoat, and none of them faced their own issues or their own reality or their own past or their own, none of that. I don't have any hate for anybody. And I don't have any hate for the family of origin. I don't have any want to know them. I have been no contact for 30 years. And in a case of the sibling, the golden child, maybe longer. But, or maybe about the same time, I don't know, math again. But the thing is, I don't have any regrets. I don't wish that it could be different anymore. And that's, you have to go through all those phases, right? And I mean, I'm going to be 63 this year, November. So I've been doing pretty well with this for 25, 30 years now. So yeah, you know, but it did take me 10 years after my father passed away for me to forgive him. But I woke up this morning, and it's the first time this has happened in 23 years. And I'm feeling it right now, so I hope this doesn't turn into like a blubbery thing or anything. First time in 23 years. And I was like no contact for 7 years. From 1990, before he died in 1997. And then for some reason, quote, my mother, you know, decided that it would be best not to tell me. I mean, it was her thing, their thing, whatever. And so I didn't find out that he died September 14th, 1997 until into May of 1998. But today is the first time I woke up. And it was the first thought. Because I was aware of some things that were happening yesterday. I mean, I did a live stream, but some things in my life and with my partner and dates and times of things coming up. And even though the back is still working its way to healthy, but I'm working on it. But the thing is, so I was aware of the date, and as soon as I woke up, and normally this isn't what I've experienced before. Okay, so everything, it can be different. You never know. But yeah, I was like, oh, it's September 14th. Was kind of my first thought when I woke up, first or second thought. And that normally wouldn't, you know, be anything. But yeah. Then the next thought was, oh yeah, my father died on this date, 1997. So then I looked, and then I did the calculation, and 23 years ago. So I've been feeling this kind of lightness, paradoxical lightness and joy, because I always smile when I think about this. And people might judge me for that, but I'm here for a reason to share this with you, because I hope it will help you, if you can relate to what I'm saying. If you had a malignant narcissist, psychopathic, Machiavellian, dark triad father, or just a narcissist, or psychopathic, or comorbidity both father, and you might have been through a lot of what I went through, or you might have even had it worse. So I was thinking about that. And yeah, the paradoxical lightness and joy because I don't know why, but every time I think about the fact he's not here anymore, and ever since I found out, and I mean no disrespect with this, it makes me smile. I can feel something else inside at times too, but it makes me smile because I know that as he passed away, my life started to open even wider. And it was open wide, and I was doing much better in my life at that point, but it opened even wider. It was just like I sensed, I didn't have enough connection. I was 7 years no contact when he died, so there was no real connection in life between us, though he was the parent that I chased after because I had no bond or attachment with my mother, which was what happened in early infancy to me. I don't feel like a victim of that anymore or anything, but it was nothing to do with me. I was the infant in that case, right? And there was no bond or attachment. So in my young childhood, by the time I was 8 or 9, I was really, or even prior to that, but at 8 or 9, I became aware of how much I was in pursuit of my father's approval, pursuit of, like, I used to go out to him a lot, being worried about, like, I had a friend who had their appendix out, and I thought it was going to happen to me. And I was a very nervous kid, very, a lot of trauma in my childhood. And so I used to go to him as sort of like my anchor, as like safety, emotional safety. And there was nothing there. Like sometimes he would say the odd word, and I guess I went away feeling better, but it was nothing emotional, no emotional exchange. So there's this paradoxical lightness, happiness, and I don't know, freedom, peace that comes with a little bit of sadness. And I felt that on and off over the years since he hasn't been here. But I think what that goes to is, it was about 10 years after, it was like 2007-ish in that region area, when I actually did finally finish the process of forgiving him. And then I was doing a video for YouTube at the time, and I believe it was 2007. It might have been somewhere, give or take a couple of years around that time. And that video, I ended up crying in that video, and I was okay with that, but people can be a little bit, not always the friendliest, right? So that video and a couple others I did, they are up for purchase for a nominal fee at phoenixrisingpublications.com because of just the reception on YouTube. Yes, it was something that I decided to take off YouTube many years ago, but not because I want, like I'm here and I'm doing this quote blog right now for the better or the worse. So anyway, I was just kind of moved by something that led me to feel this, and that there's a sense of not a heaviness, but a feeling about this that is connected for sure to my father. And that I just wanted to say I've had many spiritual feelings of his presence over the last many years from time to time. And it feels very warm, very positive, very unlike it ever felt when he was in this world. Though there was the odd little thing that he did do. I mean, the odd little thing he did do, I thought for me at the time, but it still might have been more for like what he wanted, like he wanted me to be a tomboy. He wanted me to be the quote boy that he didn't have at first, but that 3 years later, I had a sibling, a male, that came along to be the golden child, etc. But I was the one that had the skill in sports, etc. Not him, not in childhood for sure. And so yeah, my father encouraged all that because I wasn't born with a desire to skate and play hockey and play all these different sports, and I was trying to win his love and affection. And more often than not, unbeknownst to me when I was younger, right, when I was in my 8, 9, 10, in my early teens, and by that time I'd be playing hockey like on the side rink at the house anyway against my brother and winning handily all the time. I was trying to please my father. I was trying to get something out of the guy. I was trying to make a connection. And I guess every time I beat my brother in sports and board games and everything else, because I shouldn't say my brother, that golden child sibling, sorry, because my brother doesn't fit anymore, and hasn't for over 30 years. And at the time, that was a big loss, but, hey, healed it, recovered, left it behind. We have to do what we have to do when we come from these families of origin. And that is everything that we need to do to heal. And everything that we need to do to put ourselves first, because we deserve it. Because for those of us who've been abused in every which way by a cluster B parent, in this case my father, Dark Triad, it is so important that we find our way to recovery and healing, no matter what it takes. And then after the healing and the recovery can come forgiveness. And many people might be listening to me right now and go like, forgiveness? Are you out of your mind? I'm never forgiving. Well, okay, but it's a choice, and it's a healthy choice. And I want to remind people, is why I'm talking about this right now in a sort of blog style, but I want to remind people that, forgiving the cluster B, whoever they were in your life, whatever relationship type, etc., once you've gone through your healing and recovery journey, or somewhere in that process it may begin to happen, it's really important, because forgiveness is remembering and letting go. It is the gift that we give to ourselves when we've been brutally victimized and traumatized in childhood. It is the gift that we give ourselves. It's not ever saying that what they did was okay. And I would just like to say a couple more words about the fact that I've had these experiences, because I'm not just going to call them feelings, of my father's spiritual presence. It was there probably soon after he died, but I didn't know for 8 months that he had died. And subsequent years when I wasn't able to forgive, and I was working on it, but I was still working through some things. And even though, yes, I'd healed and recovered from BP by that point, I still had to keep growing into what the forgiveness process really was about for me. And it's, I think, a little different for every person. So prior to that time where I forgave him, which is the gift I gave myself, which was also something that was important to me, though, because I didn't want to hold on to hatred for somebody. I didn't want to have all that negative energy inside or around me or in any way have that coming out of me. So it felt, I don't want to use the word right, but it felt spiritually very sacred and important that I let go. And that I really understood and made peace with the fact that there is this peacefulness about experiencing from time to time what I know spiritually is, I don't understand all this, right? Because we can't explain it, but his spirit, which is a wholly different presence. It feels warm and loving and confusing still. But so for people who want to vilify even the Dark Triad, right? I'm not here to defend them or defend any Dark Triad or anything, but I think my journey is just my journey. But I hope it helps people, because this vilification of these people as evil is spiritually, I think, dangerous. Because there's just so much that we don't know about the spiritual realm, right? And so it's really important that not only to be in your healing and recovery journey, as I went through mine, but to be in a place where you can be freeing yourself on every level, including spiritually, as you progress through your healing recovery, wherever you are in this journey. I'm sure there are other people who have forgiven a cluster B FD yin yang parent for horrific abuse, like I went through, which of course they all still deny, right? But like, what would be the point in saying it if it wasn't true? What would be the point in, because hey, like, I have the recovery, the therapy scars to prove, like, not scars from therapy, but, all that work I did was not something I did because nothing happened, right? So anyway, I just find was really different today. And the other thing too is I did a video earlier, a couple of videos earlier, and I just thought, well, I'll just, change my top and my hat for the next video, and I just grabbed something that was close by, and, and then I just want to share that it's kind of like interesting that I chose this hat without thinking about it. Toronto Blue Jays, and of course we're living in a different world. We don't get to see them play. I mean, they're playing, but like I don't even know where they're playing. I don't think it's even in Canada. But yeah, I would get told 8 months later, when I got told that my father had died on September 14th, 1997. I got some details, but not a lot. But he apparently was sitting with my mother, and watching a Blue Jay game when he started to have the heart attack that would ultimately end in him dying that day. And when I think back to it too, I know that my family of origin and what their cluster B issues are, they don't understand things that I think I always did somehow, even when I was going through the worst of, my trauma and the recovery from it. Yeah, I mean, spiritually and on a soul level, somewhere inside, I still care about those people. So I still care about my father. I still care about his spirit. I'm kind of really encouraged by the fact that the spiritual experiences with him are it's just a presence of a feeling. I don't hear anything or anything. But that they're very warm, because it's very encouraging to know. And at first it sort of ticked me off. I'm like, how could this be? Like, he did all this stuff, but like now he's somewhere else in another, in the other realm or whatever, and another realm, and he's this loving, peaceful kind of feeling energy. It's like, what? But the other thing that I had to deal with there wasn't a lot of grief actually when he passed for me. There was some, but it was, there wasn't a lot, because there wasn't a lot of connection, because there was no connection, really. Maybe there was a little bit more in weird ways with my father, but like not emotionally, right? It's hard to explain. But anyway, so that's what I woke up thinking about. And that's just a little bit about my experience with that. Of course, skipping over years of hard work and therapy, and the tears and the grief, and working out all those negative core beliefs that his abuse left me with at the time, but I don't carry anymore. And so, when we choose to take these healing recovery journeys, really can get through it, all the way through it. And that's what I'm here to encourage people about. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, I don't mind saying publicly that I acknowledge this day. For years I didn't. And it just didn't matter. Or it was just, when I found out that he had passed away 8 months prior, like when I found out in May of 1998, what happened? I was living in the same city. I mean, I'm in the same city now, but my mother lived in the same city at the time, and they lived in the same, close, okay? So, and the fact that she would not reach out to me that night was astounding, in a way. I had no idea. Normally, like for people like friends and my partner now, people that I am attached to, I'm very intuitive. Like, I will, and I don't think this is empath stuff, okay? Just very intuitive, and if something's wrong or something's happened, I will get a feeling, I'll get a sense, I'll want to check in with the people that I'm close to. But it wasn't like that with the family of origin, because there was so much damage done, and there was so much disconnectedness. So I didn't have any idea that he passed away. But my world opened up immensely more, and I felt so much freer, and I guess I processed more at that time too. But for me, the way I would get to say goodbye to my father was to go to the library, back then, 1998, microfiche, to get what did, the other parent put in the obituary, it shocked me. It was so minimal. And though I was his main person, I was the scapegoat. I'm the one he victimized the most. I don't feel like a victim anymore. I was appalled at what she had put in the paper, because due to her own shame and due to her own stuff, I would have written a better obituary for him than that, because he was a great provider. He did well in what he did, career-wise, and he built himself up that way. No, he didn't have, obviously, a very good childhood either, right? And so the point is that there were things he did like that. None of it was emotional or connecting or about healthy love at all, and it was intermixed with tons of his abuse against me and trauma. But I try to acknowledge that in there somewhere was a guy that was trying to do something on some level that was, quote, right, unquote. I don't know. It's complicated. But I think that this, as well as many other things in my work over the last 30 plus years with clients, etc., who some have had, a dark chat father like I did, etc., but it really informs me about kind of not this, I don't believe it's wise to vilify. I don't think it makes sense to vilify. And so, yeah, it's just interesting that I chose this hat and that I'm feeling something a little more deeply about this today. But it's not grief. It's just a being with a feeling of, I don't even know what to call it. So, but I think it's really important for people to realize that no matter how traumatized you've been in your childhood, and if you have BPD today, or if you have codependency, or you're just struggling with a whole lot of things, that you can heal and you can recover. And it is a complete journey. It might not be perfect, but it's a complete journey. And it's one in which I took that from many moving pieces of abuse and trauma in childhood, and not just my father, my mother, paternal grandmother, and other people in the family, and or other people, I'm not sure who, and the doctor that gave me life. But anyway, if we're going to move out of a victim mindset through healing and recovery, at some point on that journey, it's important to get to forgiveness, because I just want to express from my own experience on this 23rd anniversary of my father's death, that it's without that, there's always going to be a hook. Without that, without forgiving them and letting that go too, which is really a grief process, yes, to work through that. And I went through that many years ago. But without that piece, then people can still stay in a place where all the healing work is great, but you're still going to have something that you're on a hook about that isn't quite at peace inside of you. And you deserve that peace. And when you're working hard in healing and recovery from childhood trauma, whatever if your parent was like mine that I'm talking about, father, dark triad, or whatever the case, it's important to go all the way, to come all the way back, to reclaim yourself and everything about you and your life. And the forgiveness is the gift that you give yourself in the letting go, the remembering in the letting go that is not at all saying what they did was okay. What my father did to me in my childhood and adolescence and in this life is not okay. But I've made peace with it. I've healed and recovered from it. I am no longer a victim of it. And that's where everybody deserves to get. So I hope this was helpful for someone today. And yeah, I just really felt like sharing it. I don't know why. Maybe it's not that interesting for people. But it was just something that happened that was different that I wanted to observe. And yeah, though my family of origin is riddled with stuff that they can't see for the end of their noses and that they blame me for everything, that's their thing. And I don't have anything against them, Like, I've worked it all through. That doesn't mean I would want any, like, they're hateful people, and they're small people, and they're not emotionally competent or emotionally intelligent or emotionally mature people at all. But I don't say that to devalue them, but I don't see their, quote, worth much on the other side, except that they're struggling human beings mired in cluster B issues and codependency, etc. And however they're living their life is their business, and how I'm living my life is sweet, really sweet. I feel super blessed, and in my way of putting things, it's the glory goes to God, and it's by the grace of God, and I feel really blessed. I worked really hard, and on this day I remember him less for the brutal abuser that he was, and more for the warm spiritual presence that he is now. And that's a heck of a paradox. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that. And what doesn't take us out, makes us stronger when we open to it and when we let it. And there is always a way forward, always a way through. But on these journeys, as when I was on this journey many years ago now, what's in the way is pain. That's the obstacle. Brings with it fear, shame, all kinds of things. And did I have some modicum of feeling, quote, toxic guilt, unquote, in the letting go and the going no contact from family of origin before there were books on it, no internet to help me with what is this? But it was a survival mechanism, I realized at a certain point. Maybe I'll do that video one day to talk about what that point was in a phone conversation with the mother, that I knew I was in recovery at that point, like almost recovered from BPD and sexual abuse, because I went to a separate separate therapy for it was also in the general therapy I had, like, for BPD recovery, etc. But I also went to sexual abuse recovery as well, especially, like, groups designed for that. And so, with all of that said, and, I don't think anyone in the family of origin believes a word I say, but I am the honest one. I am the authentic one. I am the one who was patient zero in our family, in that family of origin. I'm the one that showed the symptomology of an incredibly toxic, narcissistic, dysfunctional family of origin that went out to other relatives. It wasn't just immediate family, it was extended family as well. So, but, wherever you are today with whatever you're dealing with, so pain is the obstacle with shame and fear and lack of self-worth and feeling lost and maybe like, I don't know how to do anything. Like, how do I go from what I'm feeling now to where I need to go? How do I go to therapy? How do I deal with this? Does therapy work? I'm here to say therapy works. When you find the right fit and you engage, oh my goodness, yes. And the thing is, so pain is that obstacle, and it's the obstacle that's in the way that is the way. So there's no way through to your healing and recovery from whatever you need healing and recovery for, or you're working on. There's no way through without embracing and leaning into the adversity and the difficulty and beyond of that pain, because it is the obstacle, but it is also the way. It is the dark obstacle with the light all around it, waiting to show you so much more about you when you move that obstacle away, because you lean into it. And yeah, it brings, what does it bring up when you're in that process? It brings up fear, it brings up anxiety, it brings up all kinds of feelings that can be overwhelming and create dissociation and lack of grounding. And these are all the skills and tools that people need in these healing and recovery journeys. If you can resonate with what I'm saying, if you've been through something like what I'm talking about, if you were the scapegoat, if you were sexually abused, if you had cluster B parent, I had both of them were cluster B, but the thing is, so it's in your hands now. And, you know, what you're holding on to or what you might not be able to get to therapy about, be it codependency or whatever else, don't let how it feels and how scary it is stop you from being on your own spiritual journey or faith journey, from knowing that you deserve to reclaim yourself from the victimization of childhood trauma. Because that's a way that people can move from being victims to survivors to thrivers. Never mind this empath craziness in the middle somewhere, and the super empath now is going to get them all back. Trying to seek revenge on these people is a waste of time and energy, and it will keep you only focused on them. And what about you? Anybody who can resonate with what I've said today because you were victimized and traumatized and perhaps sexually abused as well in childhood, take your journey, continue your journey, but start if you haven't started yet. It's never too late to find that healing and recovery wherein you reclaim yourself and you realize somebody else, the parent, whoever, that was like that to you, treated you so horribly, didn't see you, didn't hear you, didn't love you. None of that had anything to do with you. And you are so worthy and deserving because you are who you are. Take care.